Hello and welcome back to our channel. I'm Rushali Jain and this video is brought to you by PsychLogic. In this module, we will be covering biopsychology, which includes all the basic biological processes, basic anatomy and physiology, everything related to psychology. The three most important components to understand here are the brain, the nervous system, and the neurotransmitters. In this video, we are going to talk about the neurons, the various types of neurons, and the structure and functions of the neurons. We all must have studied about the neuron in class 6th, 7th, or 8th biology classes. So let's quickly brush that knowledge up. So neurons are also known as nerve cells, and these are the information processing units. They are the basic or the fundamental units of the brain and the nervous system, which are responsible for sending, receiving, and transmitting electrochemical signals throughout the body. We'll see how that happens later on. For now, let's just focus on how the neuron looks like and what are its functions and how is it different from the other cells. Do you know, there were researches conducted that revealed that we have around 86 billion neurons at the time when we are born. And these neurons are there with us throughout our lifetime, and they cannot regenerate or reproduce once they die. Let's look at the structure and the functions of the neuron. Every neuron has a basic of three functions, that is, receive signals, integrate the incoming signals. Integration means to determine whether or not that information should be passed along, and to communicate these signals to the target cells. Now on your screen, you can see the structure of a neuron or how does a basic neuron look like. So majorly a neuron has three parts, that is the dendrites, the cell body and the axon. However, they may vary in shape, size and characteristics depending on the function and the role of that neuron. Let's begin with the dendrites. So this tree-like structure that you see in the picture is called dendrites. The main purpose of these dendrites is to receive the information from other neurons and to transmit that electrical signal to the cell body. Some neurons might have fewer or shorter dendrites, while the others might have longer and highly developed dendrites. Like the Purkinje cells found in the cerebellum have highly developed dendrites to receive signals from thousands of other cells. So the cell body or soma is essentially the core of the neuron. The main function of this is to maintain and keep the neuron functioning efficiently. Now, like other cell bodies, the neuron's soma also contains the cell nucleus. This cell nucleus produces genetic information and directs the synthesis of protein, which is vital for other parts of the neuron to function. Moving along, this long tail-like structure which is called the axon, and it is also known as nerve fiber. The axon is basically a tail-like structure that is joining the cell body at the junction called the axon hillock to the terminal button. And the function of the axon is to carry the signals from the cell body to the terminal button to transmit these electrical signals to the other neuron. Most neurons have only one axon. This ranges in size from 0.1 millimeters to over 3 feet. Some axons are covered in fatty substance called the myelin. This insulates the axon. Basically, this myelin sheet is acting like an insulator कि ये जो signals हैं ये axon से terminal button तक ही जाएं, ना कि बीच में कहीं vanish हो जाएं. So the myelin sheath has a few functions. The first, as we understood, कि signals directly axon से होकर terminal button तक जाएं, बीच में कहीं evaporate ना हो जाएं. The second function of the myelin sheath is to speed up the conduction of the nerve impulse through the axon. वैसे भी जब nerve impulse को evaporate होने से वो बचा रहा है, तो speed भी थोड़ी increase करना इसका काम है. For this, there are cells that are wrapped around the axon, which are known as Schwann cells, which are actually making this myelin sheath. अब ये speed up वाले process के लिए एक और interesting चीज है. This myelin sheath has gaps in between, as you can see. These are called the nodes of Ranvier. अब इनका क्या काम है यहाँ पे? स्पीड अप ये कैसे कर रहे हैं? These help the electrical signals to jump between the nodes of Ranvier. अब क्योंकि ये signals jump कर रहे हैं nodes of Ranvier पे, तो ये जल्दी से transmit हो जाते हैं और कम टाइम लगता है इनको अपने terminal button reach करने में. Now the last part of the neuron, that is the axon terminals or the terminal buttons. अब इनका काम बहुत ही simple है. इनको जो signals अभी axon से होकर आए हैं इनके पास, वो दूसरे न्यूरॉन तक synapse के थ्रू ट्रांसफर करने हैं. Now, what is this synapse? न्यूरॉन्स आपस में टच नहीं कर रहे हैं एक दूसरे को कनेक्शन फॉर्म करने के लिए, इनके बीच में एक गैप है। तो साइनैप्स वो गैप है जिसके थ्रू ये नर्व इम्पल्सेस या सिग्नल्स ट्रांसफर हो रहे एक न्यूरॉन से दूसरे न्यूरॉन तक इन द फॉर्म ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिकल सिग्नल्स और chemical messengers. Now these electrical signals that are transmitted by the neuron are called action potential. अब action potential को समझने के लिए सबसे पहले हमें ये समझना बहुत जरूरी है कि जो हमारा न्यूरॉन है इसके अंदर भी आयन्स होते हैं। आयन्स क्या होते हैं? They are electrical charges, positive or negative. During the resting potential or in the resting state, the neuron is negatively charged. To be accurate, it is minus 70 milliwatts. Now here I am giving you an overview of what resting potential and action potential is. If you want to know more about this, you can check out the notes. Now moving on, as soon as the message is arrived, the cell walls allow the positively charged ions that are outside the cell to rush into the cell. Now this changes the electric charge of the cell for a while. Now this rapid shift in electric charge across the cell membrane of the neuron is called action potential. इस action potential की duration में ही ये ions in and out कर सकते हैं एक cell से. And once this action potential is complete, the cell again comes back to its resting potential with the charge of minus 70 milliwatts. ये इलेक्ट्रिकल कम्युनिकेशन कब शुरू होता है? जब डेंड्राइट्स को कोई भी सेंसरी न्यूरॉन से इंफॉर्मेशन मिल रही है ट्रांसफर करने के लिए। अब वो इंफॉर्मेशन यहाँ पे इस चार्ज को ट्रिगर कर देती है, विच इज कॉल्ड डीपोलराइजेशन, एंड दिस कंटिन्यूज डाउन थ्रू द सेल बॉडी ऑन टू द एक्सॉन। नाउ एज सून एज इट रीचेस द एक्सॉन हिलॉक, अगर ये इम्पल्स बहुत ही स्ट्रॉन्ग है तो ये फुल लेंथ एक्सॉन की क्रॉस करके जाएगी दूसरे न्यूरॉन तक जाने के लिए, वेयर द एक्शन पोटेंशियल टेक्स प्लेस। एंड एज I said, action potential is the rapid sequence of changes in the voltage across the membrane. Now, in some cases, synapses allow electrical communication by simple flow of ions between the two neurons, but vastly or majority of synapses require chemical messengers to be released from one neuron to the other. और ये chemical messengers और कोई नहीं, हमारे neurotransmitters होते हैं। And neurotransmitters के बारे में हम थोड़ा डिटेल में बाद में डिस्कस करेंगे। पहले हमें ये जानना ज़्यादा ज़रूरी है कि how many types of neurons are there? Before we move on to our next topic, don't forget to check out our WhatsApp, Telegram, and Instagram channel, as we'll keep you updated with all there is to know about psychology, along with the government notifications, various practice questions, internships and jobs vacancies, etc. And we are also providing detailed lecture notes for each of our videos, so do check them out. Okay, coming back to the topic. So there are 3 types of neurons based on the function: sensory neuron, also known as afferent neuron; motor neuron, which is also known as efferent neuron; and interneuron, which is also known as relay neuron. इनके names के साथ साथ इनके functions भी अलग अलग हैं. Starting with sensory neuron, जैसे इसका नेम सजेस्ट कर रहा है सेंसरी न्यूरॉन, तो ये सेंसेशन कलेक्ट कर रहा है एंड सेंड कर रहा है सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम तक. नाउ इफ यू पिक्ड अप अ हॉट पीस ऑफ कोल, योर सेंसरी न्यूरॉन्स एंड द एंडिंग्स ऑफ द फिंगर टिप्स विल कन्वे दिस इंफॉर्मेशन टू योर सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम, विच इज द ब्रेन एंड स्पाइनल कॉर्ड. दैट इट वाज रियली हॉट. बेसिकली जो भी हमारे इनवॉलंटरी रिफ्लेक्सेस या जो भी चीजें बहुत ही सिंपल टू हैंडल होती है, वो सब हमारे स्पाइनल कॉर्ड ही हैंडल कर लेता है. एंड जहाँ पे बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स चीजों की जरूरत पड़ती है, वेर इन यू नीड टू रिकॉल सम इंफॉर्मेशन, या जो हमारी वॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स हैं, हमारा बैलेंस है, हैंड मूवमेंट्स हैं, ये सब हमारा ब्रेन हैंडल करता है. लेकिन इनवॉलंटरी रिफ्लेक्सेस हमारा स्पाइनल कॉर्ड हैंडल करता है. We'll talk in detail about all this when we are discussing about the central nervous system. Now the next comes motor neurons. Now these neurons collect information from other neurons and convey that command to the muscles, glands or organs. जैसे अभी आपने कोल का पीस उठाया हुआ था, so वो information गई आपके central nervous system तक. अब spinal cord ने दूसरे न्यूरॉन से इंफॉर्मेशन भेजी एंड वो इंफॉर्मेशन दूसरे न्यूरॉन से आपके मोटर न्यूरॉन्स तक आई दैट यू नीड टू लीव दैट पीस ऑफ कोल, एंड दैट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ द मोटर न्यूरॉन्स कि वो दूसरे न्यूरॉन से आपके मसल्स तक ये इंफॉर्मेशन पहुंचाए कि छोड़ दो इस पीस को. नाउ द क्वेश्चन कम्स कि ये न्यूरॉन टू न्यूरॉन इंफॉर्मेशन कैसे पहुंच रही है. नाउ दिस इज द फंक्शन ऑफ interneurons. These interneurons are also known as relay neurons. These kinds of neurons are found in the central nervous system and they are the kind of neurons that are connecting one neuron to the other. It might be sensory to interneuron or interneuron to motor neuron, लेकिन ये किसी gland या किसी muscle या किसी sensory organ से connect directly नहीं करते हैं. अब ये जो types of neurons थे, ये तो थे based on the function. Now we are going to study the types of neurons which are based on the structure. There are 4 types of neurons based on the structure, which are multipolar, unipolar, bipolar, and pseudo-unipolar. The unipolar neuron has only one long axon. ये लॉन्ग एक्सॉन माइलिनेटेड भी है एंड अलाउ कर रही है रैपिड सिग्नल ट्रांसमिशन को भी. नेक्स्ट इज मल्टीपोलर न्यूरॉन. मल्टीपोलर मतलब इसमें डेंड्राइट्स भी है और एक्सॉन भी है एंड ये इम्पल्सेस ट्रांसफर कर रहा है डेंड्राइट से एक्सॉन तक. नेक्स्ट इज बाइपोलर न्यूरॉन. दीज हैव एन एक्सॉन ऑन वन साइड एंड डेंड्राइट्स ऑन द अदर. बीच में सेल बॉडी आती है एंड दीज बाइपोलर न्यूरॉन्स आर फाउंड इन द आई. अब सूडो यूनिपोलर न्यूरॉन्स. नाउ सूडो मीन्स प्रिटेंडिंग. अब ये टाइप ऑफ न्यूरॉन ये है यूनिपोलर लेकिन ये दिखता है ऐसे जैसे ये बाइपोलर न्यूरॉन है. इट हैज एक्सॉन्स ऑन बोथ साइड्स एंड बीच में यहाँ पे सेल बॉडी है. लेकिन आप बाइपोलर एंड सूडो यूनिपोलर को कंपेयर कर लो. दीज आर टू डिफरेंट न्यूरॉन्स. दीज सूडो यूनिपोलर न्यूरॉन्स आर फाउंड इन स्पाइनल कॉर्ड एंड cranial nerve ganglia. So how are neurons different or unique? They have a specialized structure known as the dendrites and the axon, which is designed to transmit and receive information. Neurons release chemical messengers known as neurotransmitters into synapse or the space between the nerve cells to communicate with each other. Generally, when neurons die, they are not replaced as the other cells in the body are. Although new researches suggest neurogenesis, which is the formation of new neurons which occurs in one part of the brain, that is the hippocampus. Research has shown that new connections between the neurons form throughout life as we experience and learn new things. If injured, neurons can recognize and form new connections, which is known as plasticity. So that's all for today. In the upcoming lectures, we will be talking more about biopsychology. You can click on the link given in the description box to get access to your free lecture notes, which are prepared in detail for you to ace your exams. Don't forget to join us on WhatsApp, Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube, of course, as we are dedicated to complete the course before your exams. Stay tuned. Happy learning!